Hello again, my friends. This is another video of our cPanel configurations tutorial, and in this video we're going to go ahead configuring our Easy Apache, which is interface in cPanel to install different PHP extensions, choosing your desired Apache npm module, which I am going to tell you what is that in just a few minutes. Alright, to start configuring our Easy Apache 4, I'm not talking about web server. Right now we are only going to choose the how to install our PHP extensions and more PHP configurations, or installing, for example, Node.js on our server. But if you are going to work with Apache web server, I'm going to create another video to show you how to configure our Apache web server. Okay, so this video is also about PHP configurations, not the web server. Alright, so before I get to the content of this video, I must tell you something, that there is a tab in cPanel sidebar which is service status. So in the service status menu, you can see the details of your server, how it's running right now, how much memory it's using, the swap has been used, and everything about it. Alright? Right now you can see my server details. As you can see, the services which are up and running, and also as you can see the server load, which is right now very low, 0.002, which is okay. I've got 3 CPU cores, which is correct. I've got about 4 gigabytes of RAM, which 700 megabytes of that is right now using by cPanel control panel, and that's normal. When you install a control panel, it's normal to have about 1 gigabyte used by the control panel. That's why I told you it's really good to at least have 4 gigabytes of RAM for installing cPanel. Alright? And the swap. What is swap? If you just search for swap in Linux, you will find out that there is a partition in Linux operating system that the time that my memory has been full, it's going to move some of these processes from my memory to swap. It's something like the virtual memory, but that's not the correct word for it, because it is not a virtual memory. You should not always rely on swap. If you see that your server is going to run much amount of swap, it means that your server is not optimized and it's not in the high performance, and you need to increase the RAM of your server. Alright? So that's what I wanted to show you, and this is also the disk information, which is showing that the 9% of my hard disk, which is about 80 gigabytes, as you can see, is full, and about 90% is yet available to work with. So that's good. That's it. And let's go ahead to the main part of this video, which is Easy Apache 4. Okay, let's open it. Alright, as you can see at the first part of this Easy Apache 4, what is Easy Apache 4? Let me tell you first. Easy Apache 4 is a place where you can customize the packages installed on your web hosting server, which means that you can change the versions available on your cPanel, that the user can choose the npm module of your npm module of your Apache web server, the PHP mode handler, you can install lots of PHP extensions. You can, for example, enable the Node.js support for your cPanel, lots of those things. Alright? The first thing you should do is coming over here and customize the profile you have. There are lots of profiles available, which I've never used those, and I think it's better to work with the currently installed packages and customize this as you need. Okay, so I'll click on the customize, and there are some steps that you should take. There are some Apache npm modules that you should be considering about when you are working with cPanel. So, what is npm modules? Apache is a web server which is available about 20 years, I think. It's not really 20 years, but yes, I think it's about almost 20 years that it's around, and people are using Apache web server. Until some years ago, I think 7 years ago, I'm not really sure about when did npm modules come up with Apache, but Apache was a web server which couldn't handle lots of requests at the time. But then npm modules has been explained and introduced in the newer versions of Apache, which makes Apache able to handle lots of requests, because the npm module is going to create lots of child processes to handle lots of requests coming to the server, and that's what npm modules do. And the npms, there are some npm modules right now available, like prefork, worker, event. There were 3 npm modules, which there is a newer one, ITK. I'm not really sure when did it come, and I've never used it, but what I know about comparison of Apache npm modules is that I put this page to show you the differences of these Apache npm modules. The first one is prefork. Prefork is always the most compatible npm module of Apache for all kinds of servers. It take a little bit more RAM than other worker and event npm module, but it's more compatible with all kinds of PHP scripts that you are going to run. For example, WordPress is really optimized with prefork. And the other thing which always we're working with prefork, we always prefer prefork module, is that it's designed safe for non-thread safe modules, okay? But worker and event doesn't have that advantage. Of course, worker and event have another advantage, which is using less RAM. It's optimized for the memory, but the most important thing in shared hosting, especially when you're having some customers from different industries, it's really important that you need to think about compatibility, and prefork is the best choice there. So I'm going to leave it default as the cPanel choice is prefork. I prefer that too, and go to the next step. Here you can also use some other npm add-ons, which I don't need them any time. If you are a developer, you know what to do, you know which one you are going to use, then you can enable any of that. Okay, then I'm going to go to the next part. Right now, as I told you in the previous video, if you remember, when I was configuring my PHP versions, I've shown you that you can enable PHP versions. For example, PHP 5.4, 5.5, and 5.6 has been decrypted by cPanel about 1 year ago, and PHP 7.4 is also the newest version, which is not yet the most stable version. So the cPanel has installed the 7.2 and 7.3 by default, but if your client, for example, has a old script just suggest them to update their script to newer versions of PHP. But if you're forced to use that, it's okay. Enable this PHP version 5.6, and yes, it's going to ask you that this is a security risk, but there isn't any other way. You should take this security risk and install it. Alright? And it's going to ask you, are you going to install extensions, and or you're going to only install PHP version? And the important thing is, I should install PHP extensions too, because without it, it's not going to be useful. So, next step. The next step are the PHP extensions. For example, the IonCube, if I'm not wrong, yes, IonCube Loader, or IonCube Loader, as all of you know, is a very important thing to enable when you're configuring a server. I enable it for version 7.2 and version 7.3 because most of the time there are lots of customers around the world that they need IonCube Loader to run their PHP files. Also, there's another one. Let me make sure that this is oh yeah, it's going to be installed. And then the next thing, Imagic, which is important, I think. Just to show you what is that. That's it. For example, you can install lots of extensions over here. So just to show you, the only thing I think you need to install is the IonCube over here. Everything is installed by default in cPanel, and that's okay. It's going to work with most scripts. But if your customer is going to ask you to install a PHP extensions, you should come here and search for that extension and install it for that exact version. For example, as you can see, the libc client is now installed for PHP 5.6. Let's see that if that is installed for PHP 7.2 either, and yes, you can see that it has been installed for PHP 7.2 So that's it. You can install the PHP extensions over here. Most of the time your clients going to ask you for this, and you need to know where to install your extensions, and that's here. You can install your PHP extensions. Alright, so I'm going to the next step. Here you can see you can install the Ruby, and I suggest don't do that in a normal server for shared hosting. Then the additional packages, which is Node.js. If your customers is going to use Node.js and you're going to host Node.js application, then you should install it. Also Tomcat 85, and I don't need it on most of my servers because I always provided PHP hosting actually to my customers. So I'm going to go to the next step, and here you can see the review of what you have changed in this profile in the Apache 4. I installed the PHP 5.6 plus its extensions, as you can see, and also in the other version of PHP I have installed the IonCube Loader, as you see. So by clicking on this button, all of those is going to start, and they are going to finish in just a few minutes, and all of those customizations are going to be done. But another important tip: when you enable another PHP version, like I did right now for PHP 5.6, which is done right now, you need to go back again in multi-PHP ini editor, again bring the PHP 5.6 that you can see it hasn't been installed, but now it's installed. You need to configure this as well as the other versions. Alright, so I'm going to configure this one too, and this was 256, this was 128, and this one 128, and also the secure PHP disable functions. I should search for that too. Disable functions. Disable. Oh yeah, that disable functions. And then let's copy that from my file, which is here. Let's go ahead and paste it, save it, and it's done. So in this video you've seen that I have chosen my Apache npm perfork module, and you can change it to whatever you want. You can install your PHP extensions, you can install different kinds of PHP versions, and that's it. In cPanel you should use Easy Apache 4, and that's okay. I think I've covered everything, and in the next video we're going to the rest of our configuration. Alright?